Hello, everyone. I want to be able to welcome you to another session of Speak Up and Speak Out. As I was preparing opening comments for today's session, I was reminded of the words by James Baldwin. And he said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Last week, we had the opportunity to hear from our students, to hear what their realities are as it relates to Cincinnati Public Schools, the city, and the country. And we're really excited to now be able to talk today about change. And so today's conversation will go beyond a conversation, but it will actually be a call to action. So I'm very excited to be here to hear what our young people have to say. In the words of our Assistant Superintendent, Shauna Murphy, you are, young people, the most important people in this conversation today, and we want to hear you as leaders. At this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Scott, who will be facilitating this session. Again, remember, young people, this session is about action. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Scott. I am a rising senior at Western Hills High School. I want to welcome our returning attendees and all the adults on this panel, as well as the students. Last week, we spoke about how we felt towards this racial injustice and everything that's going on in the country right now. The key points I took away from last week that most students agreed on was unity and making a difference in that manner. Um, what I would like to see from this session today is more of a strategized approach to solving these problems, and to motivate and encourage the students that are supporting this cause, and other adults that are supporting this cause as well. Um, Now I will ask if Nia would unmute her audio and video and introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. And as I'm speaking, students, you can go ahead and unmute yourselves and show your wonderful faces. I'm Nia. I'm with Cohere. We're a community engagement firm here in Cincinnati. And we've had the opportunity to partner with CPS on many things. And I am incredibly honored to help facilitate today's conversation. My hope is that we can start having a conversation around what strategies you all as students really want to see from leaders, not just in the district, but in our community. A few things to note is, one, this is an incredibly sensitive and emotional topic. And if you're a student watching this or an adult watching this and you want to talk to someone, please reach out to someone that you know and trust to have this conversation. The feelings that you're feeling are valid. The other thing to note is that these students here today are representing themselves and their experiences. So they are not speaking on behalf of every student in the district. They're speaking on behalf of the experiences that they've lived and that they know. We won't be able to cover every single topic and every single complexity of this issue today, but this is a start and really an additional piece to what we've already started when it comes to having these conversations with students. So with that, we're going to start with the students just introducing themselves. So I want to hear from you, of course, your name and where you attend school, but also tell me how you're feeling right now, and tell me one thing that you're doing to just stay healthy and well during this time. And Chris, I'll start with you.
My name is Chris Scott again. I'm a rising senior at Western Hills High School. One thing I'm doing right now to stay healthy in this time is to continue working out and going to football practice now that we've started back up, and really to just keep my communication good with my surrounding peers.
Thanks, Chris. So staying active just with sports as well as checking in with your friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Paul?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Mcmillan IV. I attend Wilbur Career Technical High School. I'm going to my junior year. And the main things I've really been doing since the quarantine or the pandemic has happened, I've been spending a lot of time with my family, Been working out a lot with basketball and just really keeping myself updated on what's going on in the world right now.
Thanks, Paul. So staying informed, hanging out with family, and making sure that you're staying physically active. Malika?
I'm Malika Coleman. I attend Western Hills and I'm a rising senior. Mainly, I've been working to kind of like distract myself and keep myself entertained since we're quarantining. I also been spending a lot of time with my grandma and watching the news with her.
Thanks, Malika. So staying informed and also just spending time with family. Isaiah?
Hi, I'm Isaiah Cathy from Orla High School. I'm a rising junior. And what I've really been doing to stay active and go past this difficult time is watching everything that's happening with my family and working out a lot with my team.
So working out is a common theme thus far. Staying healthy. I love that. Thanks, Isaiah. Ariane?
Hello, I'm Ariane Pringle, and I'm a rising senior at Western Hills High School. I've really been trying to make sure my day goes as how it went before all this stuff happened. So just staying in the same routine, doing my work, and going to work.
Thanks, Ariane. So keeping the routine and making some money too, going to work. How about you, Kanisha?
Hi, I'm Kanisha Matthews. I'm a Riley senior at Western Hills High School, and to keep myself, I've been working and just like staying informed.
Working, staying informed. Thanks, Kanisha. Malia?
Hello, I'm Elia Riley. I'm also a rising senior at Western Hills High School. I mainly just been working and communicating with my peers around me about everything that's happening and what's their views on it.
Thanks, Malia. So some common themes were staying physically active, staying in touch with friends and family, and also just going to work, making that money. I can appreciate that. So thank you all for being here and having a conversation with us today. So we really want to hear from you about a lot of things, and we're kind of going into our second week in particular of protests and some unrest in our city. So show of hands, have any of you participated in the protests or going downtown at all? Chris, for one. So I'm curious, just observing everything that's going on in the city and some of the unrest that you're seeing, what are some of the changes that you would like to see that come from everything that's happening right now?
Really going on with everything that's like protested and everything that's going on right now. We're seeing some departments and some people and leadership and authority, basically surrendering or whatever, acknowledging the fact that we are under attack right now or whatever, and they're acknowledging it, but we don't want you to just acknowledge the fact that we're suffering. We want you to actually change something in the system. And I think that's the main thing that's still keeping our people angry like they are. That's still keeping everybody upset and unsettled because, yes, you're acknowledging our pain, but you're not changing anything yet. So
kind of moving past the acknowledgement into actually changing things in the system. I'm curious from your perspective, Chris, or anyone else who wants to raise their hand, what changes do you want to see at the school level, in your school or in the district? What are some of the changes that you want to see moving beyond acknowledgement, like you talked about? Paul, you raised your hand.
So I know this year and the past year, my dad, Mr. Mcmillan, worked at Woolworth as well. We have did like these big meetings with just the males in the school, just the 9th through 12th males in the school, and then the middle school will have their own little meeting or whatever. But just really emphasizing how to deal with the police if you get pulled over. I know now we're getting older, we're 16, 17, 18 years old, now we're driving, so just to know how to cooperate and just to make it to see another day with all these killings and stuff like that. So just really in schools, the teachers and just having police officers or the fire department or anybody of that nature just coming into schools and really teaching students how to deal with the police.
Thanks, Paul. So you'd like to see maybe some sort of orientation or informational session at school around how to deal with police, how to have a conversation with them, especially if you're pulled over. Anyone else? Kanisha?
I would just like to see more students and mostly adults and district leaders to start signing petitions and donating what they can to the families who have been affected by racial injustice and police brutality.
So seeing some of the folks in your school actually donate their time as well as sign petitions, and probably be verbal about that, right? Sharing that that's what they're doing. Anyone else in terms of changes that they want to see? Malika?
I feel like in school we might need to offer more courses that really tackle African American history and not just like a section in a history class. I feel like students need to understand our history and kind of see how it's coming back to light now and figure out different ways to tackle it and have people being knowledge about it, because if no one has knowledge, then no one can really actually stand up and speak out about something.
So seeing an update in the curriculum, especially history class. Laarion?
I agree with Malika. I feel like if more people understand why we feel the way we feel, or the stuff that we've been through, or why we feel like we need to protest, or we need to speak up, or why we feel bad for everything that's happening, then we should know why it happened and how it happened and when it started.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. And Malia, I see your hand, and maybe this is where you're going to, but I would love to hear from you guys on what do you think they should include in history class? What kind of conversations do you want to see them happening? I'll let you think about that. And Malia, I know you had your hand raised.
Before we get into that, I just want to say, based off what Malika was saying, I feel as if we're not learning in depth about what's happening or why it's happening, it's going to keep repeating itself if nobody is stepping up to bring change to it, or if the young people are not actually being educated on why it's happening and how not to let it repeat itself, or else we're going to keep running the same cycle for years.
Yeah, we heard a lot about that. I think last time some of the group that was involved in the last conversation is here today, but just wanting to hear from the school updated information on current events, things that are happening right now, and facilitating those conversations. Sounds like it's something that you all really want to see. Are there other things that you want to see, especially when it comes to information with such a big theme and it's coming up again? So I'm curious, how do you want the school or leaders in the city to share that information with young people? Laarion?
I feel like when it comes to the topic of Black history, people are real sensitive about it. So that's why a lot of people don't know a lot of stuff about it, because slavery is just like one little topic in the history class. It's not something that we talk about a lot. It's like we learned about slavery. It happened here in the country. The states. The states down south, and that's all we know. We don't know who these people were, why it happened. They don't go into depth about stuff like that. It's just like a little slight topic, and then you forget about it. So a lot of people don't know a lot of stuff. So I feel like if we put more African American history in more curriculums, then more people will understand and feel how we feel.
Mm-hmm. So you'd like to see them go more in depth about, instead of just kind of touching the surface, but really go in depth about the history and how and why things have happened in this country. Chris?
I agree with Laarion right now with that, because we have literally full units for how our country was discovered, how things were founded, and everything like that. But we have no legitimate, like, solid foundation information on where we started here. It's always, yeah, the slavery thing that picks up, and that's all people remember when they talk about African American history. It's the slavery era. But what about after we became free, free or whatever from everything, all of our boundaries and everything? Like, we have our rights, which most students don't even know their rights now. Sad to say, but it's true. A lot of students don't know their rights. A lot of students don't know things that they should know, like cops are not allowed to search you without any warrants. You feel me? Stuff like that. And people, they're not allowed to search your property. They're not allowed to take your property unless they have the right precautions and stuff to take it, like a reasonable cause to take it. So for us to be informed, we have to be taught these things. And lack of information in school, and us not knowing our rights, us not knowing how to talk to a cop, like even when they are upset with us, like just to be prepared, like to teach us to put our stuff up front before they even get to our window, you know, so we don't have to reach and accidentally get shot because they're scared of their job, you know. And we should be warned and taught on how not to deal out of anger, but deal out of our minds, you know, and how to be smart in situations of our situations, so we won't have to be the next one on the news. We won't have to be the next one with the knee on our neck crying, you know. So we just a more safe approach and a smarter approach is my opinion towards our education.
So being more upfront about, what's going on in the community and how young people can know their rights, can advocate for themselves, and really stay informed. So you really want to see that being incorporated in schools. What are some other things? Thanks, Chris. What are some other things that you all want to see? What do you think about Chris's suggestion? I know Paul and Chris, Ariana all kind of brought up the idea of wanting the schools to talk more about knowing your rights, knowing how to advocate for yourself if something does happen. More in-depth history class was another thing that was brought up. So, not just skimming the surface of slavery, but moving beyond that and really talking about the full history of Black people in our community and in our country. Is there anything else that you want to see in terms of what's happening at school? Do you want to see conversations, meetings, facilitated conversations with your students and peers? Malia?
Well, I know many of us are inside of like organizations within our school, so maybe there could be like an organization that deals with this or teach us or help us speak out to the peers at our school or the children beneath us to let them know or strategize or teach them things about it so that they understand on a different level rather than just being taught inside of a classroom.
So moving beyond the classroom and history class and going into different clubs and different organizations within the school to have these conversations. Ariana, I know you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing Malia said. If we have like more places where people can talk about stuff like this, where they can be heard, and we can teach other kids that's younger than us, or even kids who the same age as us who don't know what's going on. If we can teach them that the stuff that's happening can be prevented, then it won't happen.
Where do you guys talk about, obviously these issues didn't start yesterday, so where do you guys talk about these things right now in school? Is it just with your friends on the side? Do you feel like you have a group that you can and talk to about these things? Malika?
Well, the school year that just passed, I kind of had a great opportunity to take a course. It was an African American history class that was for a semester, and I had got to talk about different topics that happened besides slavery that kind of connects to what's going on now, like when jails were created and why jails were created and how that kind of transformed into a lot of Black people being abused and accused of things that were silly just to put them in jail and throw them in, so it doesn't seem like, oh, we're lynching them or we're killing them. We're just hitting them away for bad behavior. So I feel like that's a good thing to continue on with if you actually have that opportunity in school.
So was that a specialized class or was that a segment within your history class? Can you say more about that?
That class was a specialized class. Well, a lot of kids that were in the class had already took psychology, and my teacher, Miss LT, she was the psychology teacher. So African American history is kind of like a class for like a second semester if you didn't already have a class pick. And I was able to switch classes and get in that class last year.
Okay. Thanks, Malika. So more specialty classes like that where students can get more in depth and have those conversations. Sounds like it could be really important moving forward. I know someone else had their hand raised regarding where they talk about these things right now with their peers. Malia?
Well, I know like inside of Girls to Women, we do stuff, or like we like towards the end of the school year, we used to come up with like a protest to do, or we go out and speak to people about stuff, or talk to younger ladies within our school about different topics and stuff. And we were gonna think about doing a topic like this, but unfortunately to us not being able to go back to school, it didn't get the file all the way through like we thought it would.
That sounds like it could be a really useful idea to continue. So I hope you find a way to make it happen in the next school year. There was a question from an attendee that I want to ask, and they asked, what are some changes that the police can make, in your opinion, to do better for the Black community in Cincinnati? So what are changes that the police can make? Kanisha?
I feel that they need to do more hours of training with handling people. They need more hours. They need more hours because they spend a lot of training hours on learning how to use a firearm and having the physical abilities, but I don't feel like they use a lot of hours on actually learning how to deal with a situation. And I just feel like it needs to be a reform in their system.
So reform in their system. And Kanisha, can you talk a little bit too about, do you feel like they need to work specifically? I know there's police in schools as well. So would you like to see them think more about how to interact with youth in particular?
Yes, because I don't know. It's a different generation. Like, they just need to learn better and treat us right.
Thanks, Kanisha. I know I had some other hand raised. Ariane?
I agree with Lucia. I feel like police officers, they are trained to like kill and hurt and like defend themselves, but they don't teach them how they should defend somebody else, how they supposed to save somebody else's life. That's in my opinion. I feel like they don't get enough training on stuff like that. So when they get in situations where it's a person and the person not even doing wrong, they don't know how to react. So I'm not saying that it's all their fault, but they're not trained the right way, in my opinion.
So the importance of training. Malia?
I think that when they're going through their training process, they should be tested or taught on how to arrest or deal with certain people, not with certain people, but everybody is not going to react the same. So you can't just categorize everybody to be the same or react the same way. Everybody is different, so they need to be trained on how to deal with different people or different age groups, because everybody reacts different and generations are changing. So therefore, it's not going to be the same as you think, and people are going to try to outthink you. So therefore, you got to learn how to deal with the age group or the person you're dealing with, because everybody's not going to react the same, especially if they feel like they're not in the wrong or they feel like that they didn't do anything wrong to begin with. So they're going to react angrily if they're being accused or something. So I feel like they should be trained on how to deal with that when it comes about.
Thanks, Malia. Yeah, that's such an important point too, especially the generational divide as well. Sometimes how a young person or a student interacts isn't actually meant to be disrespectful, but an older adult might think that they are trying to be, and that can cause a lot of miscommunication. Isaiah, you've been quiet, man. So I'm going to call on you. I want to hear what are your thoughts? What do you think? What are some of the changes that you want to see, whether it's with police or in schools?
Well, for me in school, we should start a team for students, not even just student athletes, just students in general, to have a voice and like speak on what they feel is happening, or if they feel like something is being marginalized or something. Like we learn in history, we'll learn about an African king, and they'll say he'll be this rich and not take it to where they hear it if they read it in some other sources, something like that. And like for police, I feel like what she said, miscommunication. Like they'll take what am I doing wrong officer as a threat, and they'll take the officer take it way too far than it should be.
Oh, still on mute. Thank you, Isaiah. So continuing those conversations, having those conversations, and really what I'm hearing too is the opportunity to talk beyond slavery, but really highlight African Americans and Black achievement is something that is really important to you all moving forward. Chris?
The one thing I want cops to be trained on is not to be the cop that act on impulse. You know, a lot of wrong things happen when you're acting on impulse. You're not always making the right judgment on impulse. So, like to say, for instance, like all these videos that I've seen, and even in person, I've seen cops talking to somebody in the car with no apparent weapon in sight. They have their hand on their Glock already. That's not acceptable. Like, and even when you are on video, even when you are a cop that's been in a sticky situation, why is it that, you know, it's more likely for you to get off? Like, if you do something wrong, in my eyes, if a citizen did something wrong and they get convicted for it, they should do their time, right? So if a cop get convicted for something, they should do their time as well. It shouldn't be different because you're a cop, you know. And justice is justice. Just that's baseline. It's justice. So it shouldn't be different for any different group. It shouldn't be different from whether if you have a badge or not. So I just, they need to be taught not to seek damage first, not to expect damage first. Talk to the person. If they ask you why you pulled them over, tell them why you pulled them over. Don't why are you withholding information from me? If you're trying to get to the bottom of the situation, just get to the point, get to the end of the situation without trying to shoot somebody. Because I feel like that's what they've been trying to do for a while.
So continuing that de-escalation piece is really important to you, and them being open to having a conversation with a person instead of making immediate assumptions and taking action. Laarion?
I also feel like if police officers actually tried to get involved with their community and like learn the people who they around, no matter if it's kids, Black people, like the place where they live, they should try to get active in their community so people can get to know them, so they can have trust. A lot of us don't trust police officers, and it's because of the stuff that we see them do. So if we actually got to know some police officers, we'd probably trust them more.
The piece around just getting to know them as people so that you can trust them and feel like they have your best interest. Show of hands, how many of you all personally know a police officer? Thanks. I think it's important. That relationship piece is incredibly important because I'm sure it changes your mind on how you view them. So before we transition to our conversation with our adult leaders who are here, I'd love to finish by just asking the group, and I'll give you a second to think about it as well, but If you were the principal of your school or the teacher of history at your school, what's the one thing that you would do this upcoming school year to support students like yourselves? So if you were principal, if you were in charge of the history curriculum, or if you were in charge of your school, what's the one thing you would do? Malia?
I feel like it would be like very mandatory that all of our students understand the definition of what diversity is and how important it is within a school or in a community for us to all accept and understand each other and better understand how a different race or how would they react to us, or our body languages are different from them, or how would they, like, how are we different, but how can we also have things in common that help us come together as a whole to understand it's very normal to have a diverse area or diverse community within ourselves so that we all feel a part of each other. We're not trying to discriminate against each other.
So that's the first thing you would do, is just hold a meeting or some sort of conversation to really have a deep dive into what diversity is and how to understand each other better. Thanks, Malia. Laarion?
I think the first thing I do was will maybe get everybody to understand that the color of my skin doesn't define me, who I am. People think that all Black women are mad at the world, or that all Black men are out to get them. And when in reality, a lot of us just want to be successful, just like any other person of a different race. And I guess they don't understand that. They feel like us getting angry means that we're going to blow up when everybody get angry. Or us feeling a certain way toward the subject is going to make us angry. And I feel like if more kids knew and understand Black people, then they understand why we are and why the stuff that we do is just like the stuff that they do. And they wouldn't feel that we are different and feel that we react differently towards a certain subject.
Thanks, Laarion. Would you want that to happen in a big group setting? Both you and Malia kind of talked about that importance of having conversation around diversity and understanding one another. Do you guys want that in small groups and meetings? How would you want to structure something like that? Malia?
But like for the different age groups to understand, you would have to do it maybe by grade levels, or so that they can have a better understanding, and that you have to teach it on a different level so that the younger children, like the middle schoolers, will understand what we're saying, and how the high schoolers will understand what we're saying, so that everybody understands the definitions or how we should be all accepted, so that we have a better understanding that we can come together as a whole, because there's plenty of room for all of us to succeed. And if we are working together, that just only make the community around us a better place that we all feel.
Thanks, Malia. So maybe breaking it up by, grade or age could be an important way to have the conversation. Does anyone else have some specific ideas around what they'd want to see? Chris?
Not even just in the classroom, but like they said, the conversation. That would be cool, but I would like to have like smaller groups, at least like 20, 30 kids in a group. Because yes, every generation, like Ms. Leah said, they learn different, they hear different. They're gonna see the same message you teach differently if it's taught the same way. So smaller groups so we can have interaction, and not only that, um, even have something going on in the school that let every race, every ethnicity in the school know that they are valued, that they are seen, and that they are like every other person in the school. They are a part of the school, and they are meaningful to the school. And even on top of that, let them know that they have a right to feel how they feel. Even if you are angry at the law or you angry at somebody, your anger is not the problem. What you do with it is the problem, you know. So just to let them know how to make better choices on when they are mad, on when they are upset with something. Use that energy that you about to use to fight me use it to do something productive, you know, and just make better choices and see things differently. Like we need to change the perception for real.
Thanks, Chris. So more productive conversations, but you particularly like to see them, even if it is by age, in a little bit of a smaller group format, so you can really have a meaningful conversation with people at school. Paul, I know that you had your hand raised, so I will leave that to you, and then we have one more Q&A question before we go to our adult panelists.
Just for me, just really having maybe a class a month, a class maybe every 2 weeks or whatever, however they want to do it, but just really explain, because a lot of kids don't understand, don't know how to interact with police if they get pulled over, if they're just walking and police having to stop them, or so just really emphasizing how to deal and interact with the police and really having a class and letting people speak about it and their situations that they might have had a conversation or whatever, got pulled over or whatever, and just really speak out and talk about it in like a class setting and just really help kids and students learn how to interact with the police.
Thanks, Paul. That's a great idea. And the open conversations you'd want to see, you know, when you get back to school, open conversations, particularly about how to deal with the police, but also it sounds like giving young people a platform to talk about the experiences that they've had in their interactions with police is important to you. So the last question from the Q&A here is from someone who is asking, you know, what programs or type of engagement would you want to see from police right now? So from CPD, are there any particular programs or things you'd want to see them do to help build those relationships? Ariane?
I know that most CPS schools have like more, so I feel like they should get involved with different groups, like more Girls with Pearls, athletes. Maybe they should go talk to them, give them some words of wisdom or something. I feel like if police officers were more involved with us, we would trust them and we wouldn't feel like we have to react a certain way to protect ourselves and it get taken the wrong way and then we end up dead.
So for you, it's not necessarily about creating programs, but about them coming to programs that students are involved in and showing up. Isaiah, I see you nodding your head, so I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, what she said was it was like our officer in our school. She's very social. Like she's there at after school programs. She's there during our third floor to second floor, talking to all the kids. So I really just like to have like a very personal relationship with most of our police officers here, and like for programs, with like the police department already got like different programs, like the Swiss League. They got other programs that's dealing with other schools, but I feel like they should have it with just kids and like the youth in general, where they could just have one-on-one talks with them, and like if they need emotional support, they're there for them and all that. And if they could just go to like rec centers or something like that, where all the kids be libraries, and just have one-on-ones with them, just like out of random, no, just not they're gonna be there on one day. You can't like let the kids know that they're gonna be there because they just surprise them or something like that.
Yeah, just showing up to where kids are, building those relationships, being available. Kanisha, I'll give you the last word and then we'll move on to the adult panelists. So I know you had your hand raised.
I was just going off of what Aaron was saying. I would say like get with the schools collaboratives and just collab, and like we do a lot of campaigns during the year, so it wouldn't hurt for maybe the police to show up and talk, because we need like adult and motivational speakers there, so it'd be nice if we all like did a campaign at the end of the year and they would show up and they would help us with it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think the theme here around this conversation is you want to see police show up not just when they're about to address an issue. You want to see them show up and develop a real meaningful relationship with with you at school. So thank you guys for this conversation. It's far from over, but I'm thankful for the many ideas that you had, from creating just conversations and opportunities this upcoming school year for students to talk, to more in-depth history classes, especially around Black history, and a Know Your Rights kind of campaign, and more information being shared in the school setting. So guys had some great ideas, and I know that the leaders in CPS are listening to these, and I'm sure are thinking about ways to implement them. So I'll ask you to go ahead and mute yourself if you haven't already, and just stop sharing your video for a short period of time, and then I will have the city and school leaders come online quickly and share their video so we can get to know them a little bit more. Wonderful. So thank you all for being here. I just want to, before we have the students ask you questions, I just want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, what you do, how you interact with students now, and just some initial thoughts. And I know the kids had a lot to say, the students had a lot to say, so I just love to hear some of your initial thoughts. So we'll start with you, Ms. Ficklin.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. My name is Tanya Ficklin. I currently serve as the lead school counselor for Cincinnati Public, and I also have the honor of being a high school counselor for 11th and 12th grade students at Walnut Hills. So listening to the students today, what I'm taking from that is they want action. They have heard a lot of lip service in the past, and at this point they are where they want to see action behind what's going on. They want to change. They want to know what's going to cause that change. And some of the action items that I'm taking that they want is that they want better education. They want to know more about the African American history and how our story has played a part in America and what we have done to make America what it is. And they want to be recognized. I'm hearing that they do not feel that the educational system is doing a good enough job in teaching them about their history, whether it's just about what we've contributed or if it's about what the negative things that we've had to endure in order to get to where we are and how we continue pushing through. And I have to say I 100% agree with them. I think it is time that when we talk about history, our history is included. We are part of American history. America would not be where we were if it had not been on the backs of what slavery had done and the economic impact that we've had. And I think it's time that we have those conversations as to what happened in the past, how it reflects to what's going on now, and what do we need to change now in order to get to the next steps.
I couldn't agree more. Well said. Thank you. Coach Hill, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm Ricardo Hill, teach over at Walnut Hills High School, and I'm also the boys basketball coach. Listening to the students today, I'm just totally impressed with their leadership ability, their thought process, and I think they were right on point with every single topic. The police collaboration, the educational system, how they want to be impactful moving forward. So it was a lot to digest, and I'm just totally blown away and encouraged about the future of these kids. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Mr. Stallings?
All right, my name is Teran Stallings. I'm a real estate developer here in Cincinnati, but on this call in the capacity of the founder of the DAD Initiative, Directing Adolescent Development, which is an organization with a lot of programs in Cincinnati public schools, but specifically designed to address what you guys are calling adults on the carpet for. So I'm very proud to hear your commentary. I'm impressed, as Coach stated before me, with the amount of thought that you all have put into this. It is very apparent that this is not a fly by the seat of your pants answer that you all are offering up. So continue your thought process and know that there is an organization here to support you. We'll advocate for you, and please feel free to reach out. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, and thanks again for all three of you to join. I know the students have prepared some questions to ask, and we've got about 15 minutes, so I think we mentioned in our planning we'll just kind of feel things out and see how much time we have to answer each question. So the first question I know is from Isaiah. So Isaiah, if you want to unmute yourself and show your screen and ask your question, that would be great.
Oh, yeah. So my question is, what is something you feel we could or should be doing now that your generation wasn't able to do?
You want anybody to jump in there?
I think so. If you've got something top of mind, go ahead.
Sure. There's a lot of things that you all could do that we fell short on, but one thing I say is control the narrative. You all have access to social media, which didn't exist when we were in high school. So a lot of the problems that we have stem from our portrayal in media, the way that stereotypes are reinforced, and you all have a powerful tool to combat that. So I would encourage you all to move cohesively, talk to your peers, but make sure that the imagery that you all put forward is representative of the way that you want to be seen. That is a very powerful tool against everything that we are currently seeing happen in this country. So control your narrative.
I would also like to add that you need to vote and encourage your peers to vote and continuously vote. Listen to what people stand for and vote for those who support you and who validate you and believe that you are worthy. Your vote means everything. Voting makes a difference. We need to put people in office that support and speak for us and will be allies with our cause.
And then to piggyback on both of those, we definitely have to use the social media platform. And then on top of what Ms. Ficklin said, once you guys become 18 and you're eligible to vote, then you got to learn how to hold the politicians accountable that we put into office. But in your school, you can still have a major impact and change things in your school system. So you got to learn your student handbook, which most students don't even touch, that you typically will get the first week of school. But learn the rules of the school, learn the hierarchy in the school. Who do you have to speak to make changes in that particular school? Your student council, get involved in it. So it's a lot of things that you guys can do.
Thanks, you all. And the one thing I would add, taking off my facilitator hat, even though you may not be able to vote, you can hold your city elected officials accountable right now. Invite them to come speak at your school. Invite them to come to a group meeting and ask them questions, ask them hard questions, because eventually, even if you're not voting now, I know that all of you on this phone, on this call will be active voters eventually. So they need to be able to answer to you. Thanks, Isaiah. I think the next question for the group comes from Kanisha. So Kanisha, if you want to come online, ask your question.
My question is, what are some things besides this platform?
Did you guys hear that?
A little broken up.
I didn't catch it either. Kanisha, I think your connection might be a little off. So why don't we come back to her? So for now, Kanisha, if you want to go ahead and turn your video off, we'll come back to you if we have some time. I know Malia has a question. So Malia, if you want to pop on and ask your question to the group.
Okay, my question was, what are some good ways to bring change into a positive light?
I'll start it if that's okay. I think one thing is to open your mouth. When you see injustice or when you see something that's not right that's going on, open your mouth and have a voice, and then understand the procedure to make something happen that's going to be a positive effect out of what just happened. For instance, if something is going wrong in your school, you can voice that, but just understand the hierarchy in your school, who I need to voice it to, and then to make an impactful change. And my school is going to benefit me personally.
I say another way is to continue your education and make education a priority, as well as advocacy. You need to make sure that your voice is heard and that you're speaking up for yourself. And once again, I'm going to continue to go back to voting. The young people of today, your voices are so important in so many different ways. So you have to speak up. You have to value education so that you know what you're talking about when you're going to the table or when you're asking or taking a seat at that table. You have to have that education and know what's going on from both sides so that you can counteract what they're going to bring to you. So definitely education, definitely advocacy, and definitely getting out there and voting and encouraging others to vote.
And I would agree with both of them. They couldn't have stated it better. Last thing I would add is just to make sure that you rally people together who have a common thought and you organize. Everything that was accomplished in this country came through organization. And the greatest triumphs that we had as African Americans in this country came through organization. So just make sure that you all are not just mad in a silo, but you organize people who have the same thought as you, and then you all move cohesively.
Okay, and before I exit out of here, I was going to give you guys this Kanisha question because she said she's on her way to work. Her question was, what's something besides this platform that you have done to make a change?
I guess I'll start as the nonprofit person. So I was a teacher for 15 years before I felt that I needed to do more. And I left the school district and became an educational consultant, specifically working with African American kids and making teachers understand how to interact with African American kids productively. From there, I started this nonprofit, the DAD Initiative, and our whole goal is to advocate for African American kids and underprivileged kids to make sure that there's equity in education, equity in employment for their families. So my work is to work with young people and people in our community to create change.
I've had the ability to donate funds to organizations, as well as work with the school counselors within the district on what does next year need to look like in order to support our teachers and our students moving forward, knowing what we're currently going through. How do we put things in place to support you as we move forward?
And then I've worked with several different organizations over the years to try to help out all of our kids. But I don't feel like I've done enough. Obviously, like I saw a video that I did when I was in school back in 1991, and that's 29 years ago. And I was talking about racial injustice in that video, and it's amazing today we're still talking about it. So obviously, I don't feel like I've done my part. So I'm all boots in now and ready to help our future leaders, just like yourself, to make a positive change.
Thanks, Malia, and thank you for asking Kanisha's question as well. The next question is from Chris. So Chris, if you want to share your screen, unmute yourself and share your question.
My question for y'all was, how can you influence others to get more involved?
I'll start this one. For me, I think it would be to set up opportunities for continued open dialogue, take some of the concerns that the students are having to higher up so that differences are made and to ensure that their voices are being heard and that the changes that they want are actually being put in place. I think when students see that what they say has turned into action and that there's something has changed because of it, it will encourage others to speak up, knowing that if I say something, if I'm with a group and we're giving our voice out there, they are listening and they are hearing what we're saying, and it's making a difference and making a change in the system.
I say show people their interest in the situation or the thing that you're trying to change. A lot of times people feel disconnected from what it is that you're trying to get changed. So if you show them how it impacts them and how they have an interest in it, I think they'll take to it and be more apt to help out.
Yeah, to influence others, you got to show them how it benefits them. And one way you can do that is by what Mr. Stallings said is organize in different groups. So get involved in the groups that are already in your school, or if there's a group that you want to create, then create your own group and have that platform. And you'll see it when people love positivity, and people will follow you. To be a leader, all you need is one follower. And organize your own group. Organize it where it's going to make a positive impact.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for answering that. And thanks, Chris, for asking the question. Malika, I know you had a question to ask. I want to make sure that you get the time to ask your question as well.
Okay, so my question is, should curriculums be updated in the schools to focus more on the important accomplishments made by African Americans and our history?
Can I start this one also? I'm going to say yes. Our curriculum needs to be updated without a doubt. It definitely needs to talk about the accomplishments, but once again, I'm also going to say that it needs to talk about the devastation and how we've overcome. We need to have conversations about Rosewood from 1923. We need to have conversations about Black Wall Street, 1921. Our students need to understand what that means, what it looks like when we had slavery, what was the outcome of slavery, why was slavery put in place, what is it that we're doing now that still looks like slavery, and how are we still suffering the consequences of that? So does our curriculum need to change? 100%. The curriculum needs to change. I think we need to have a different expectation of the graduation requirements, so that it's not an option that you take the class, but it's a requirement that you take the class. And I think that within those classes, we need to have conversations. It needs to be open to conversations, and everyone's viewpoint needs to be respected and heard.
Totally agree with Ms. Ficklin. We definitely, and it's just not inside the schools per se, but it's the standardized testing as well. You don't see anything on the standardized testing about pre-slavery or Rosewood. So a lot of teachers teach based on a certain level that everyone wants their kids to get these standardized test scores, the highest scores, and so forth. So you almost kind of teach to that level. So we have to really do a complete reform and include our history in it.
As quickly as possible. I'm looking at the clock, but I will say that I agree with both of them. You have to look beyond slavery into your lineage and all the great things that happen throughout the diaspora from people with African lineage. And so you can be rooted in the greatness of your folks. Beyond that, I would encourage you all to own your education. So as we fight to reform education, nothing is stopping you from researching and learning about your people yourself. So make sure that you put in that investment so that when you go to the table and you say what needs to be added, you can speak from a place of power.
Amazing. Thank you all. And thank you, Malika, for asking that question. I think to sum up, in as short of a time as we have, know your history, know your rights, and know that as students and young people, you have immense power. And you have ability to influence this city and our school district in amazing ways. So thank you to all the students that joined today. Thank you to the leaders that were here. We're going to ask Kanisha to close us out. So I will put myself on mute and I'll ask the adult leaders to do the same, and Kanisha will have the last word.
Thank you all for attending the second Cincinnati Public Schools Speak Up, Speak Now. Please join us next Wednesday at 12 p.m. and have a nice day. Remember to donate and sign petitions. Thank you.